Welcome to the Commercial Kitchen Chronicles, the podcast dedicated to the commercial food equipment repair industry. My name is Pat Finley. I'm a lead master certified technician at General Parts Group and a certified professional trainer. My goal is to shine a light on what I believe to be one of the most interesting and rewarding industries a field service technician can work in. I love the work I do, and I'm glad you're here listening to this podcast. In this episode, I have Jake Kitterman with General Parts. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Commercial Kitchen Chronicles. Today, I have special guest Jake Kitterman on. Jake is actually one of my apprentices in Indianapolis at General Parts. Pretty cool dude, younger guy. It's always good to see a younger guy in here. I think my son's got him beat by a few years, but hey, he's still younger than me, so that counts. So Jake started off as a residential HVAC guy. I'm sure he's got some history before that, but that's what I know him as before he came to work for us. And he's been working with us for probably 8-9 months now, and he's coming along pretty nice. So let's hear it for Jake. So Jake, thanks for coming on, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Pat. I've been with General Parts now for about 7 or 8 months. Been drinking from a fire hose, as I say. Getting my hands on a lot of equipment. Kind of came from the residential HVAC side, so it's a little bit of a different ball game, as we can get into later. But thanks for having me on.
And of course, we got Jason Latimer back. Jason's going to be a staple around here, I think. I'm just going to keep having him back over and over and over. So what's going on, Jason?
Oh, man. Just another day in paradise. Just got home, put in a long day, and thanks for having me on again, man.
Yep. How's the weather down there in beautiful Florida?
It's pretty hot. It's not even anywhere near as hot as it's going to be in the next 2 months when summer hits, but it's an early hot year.
Yep.
A lot of AC calls and whatnot, and ice machine calls.
Yep, we had a taste of some heat last week. It's kind of chilled down a little bit this week, but last week we were in the 90s, and it was a little rough at first, but we're getting there. We'll get it figured out. So, but no, I just want to have Jake on and talk about his journey. From being a younger guy doing residential HVAC and then transferring over. I know you have some HVAC experience before you transferred over, and I didn't have that luxury. I started off as an electrician, so I didn't have any HVAC or mechanical side background to me. I guess electrical is mechanical, but and that was my journey into this, and I kind of picked up the HVAC side of it later on. And I don't have a whole ton of experience in it. Most of mine's package units on the roast and stuff. So, I don't really know split systems too well in houses. I know I got to go look at Corbin's tomorrow. He's got a leak. His house he just bought, he moved in Friday and his AC was not keeping up, and they came out and did a gas and go on Saturday, and the guy supposed to come back and leak check it tomorrow, so he wants to be there when they do a leak check for him.
An enforcer.
No.
So what happened to that home inspection before you bought it?
Dude, I don't know, because it's a new furnace, but the furnace is huge, and it's got this little bitty case coil that sits on the ground above the ductwork that goes in the crawl space, and it's like the furnace is so much bigger than the case coil, it's tilted. So I'm hoping that they have to replace it, and then that way we have a chance to pull the furnace out and build a proper box, to set the furnace on and set the coil in, that kind of stuff, because it's kind of sketchy right now.
Is there a transition between the bottom of the floor and the coil? Oh yeah.
No, it's sits right on the floor. So I was hopefully, if it does have a leak, we get a chance to fix it. I'll make it look right and make it sturdy, because I don't trust it. His furnace is leaning bad.
Uh-oh.
We may have to have you come up and take a look at this. So.
My number.
What do you think about the commercial food service world so far? I know it's been kind of probably eye-opening and a little crazy at times.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mixed bag. I think overall though, I'm just excited, because I think, coming from residential HVAC, I'm having to deal with hot and cold side in homes, and so that's a little bit of an easier transition for someone like me, dealing with hot and cold side equipment. Just like a convection oven or fryer is just super similar to a furnace. I mean, you got gas valves, you got heating elements, high limits, thermostats. So you're playing with a lot of the same toys. It's just in a different package and different access points and more commonly, higher voltage than your typical AC or furnace combination. But yeah, just I'm excited because I've always kind of wanted to just learn. I'm just eager to learn more, and that's kind of a common theme I hear from guys who transition into commercial, whether it's kitchens or HVAC. They're just eager to learn more, and they want to learn, expand their resume. They want to be the best they can be, and so being a part of this team and being a part of commercial kitchens, just there's so many avenues to learn, and so it's kind of fun because in our position with Parkstown, we see everything from stuff that's really new, a lot of warranty calls on stuff that's got really complicated control board systems, and then maybe we have good relationships with older schools in the area that might have really old equipment. So I get my hands on old equipment that's not as quite complicated, but maybe really dirty. So it's just different problems for different aged equipment, and so it just keeps me on my toes.
Yeah, it's definitely a variety. It's definitely a challenge. I never imagined 17 years ago when I started doing this, it'd be the way it is today with everything being a touchscreen and computer. I'm sure Jason's the same way. He's been in it for a few years now. And just the transition and the way everything's going in this industry, it's just crazy. Everything is a touchscreen. I mean, reach-in coolers, walk-in coolers, ovens, fryers, toasters. I mean, it's nuts the way everything's going. So that's got to be a huge learning curve. I'd mentioned this before. When I started, I didn't have to carry near as many parts. And Greg, like I said, Greg, for example, he started 38, 39 years ago. He could carry like 40 parts and fix everything he worked on for the week. I mean, it's crazy the difference in, where it's gone. But it's just like everything else. Technology is going to, lead the way in everything we do. I'm sure Jason sees a lot more than me because he does a lot more different stuff than I do too. So,
yeah, and it's a little crazy with digital everything, whether it's a walk-in, a reach-in, cooking equipment. I'm not sure what they're not going to switch to digital soon enough. Touchpads will just be watching us, and AI will control what they're doing.
Yeah, it's nuts out there. It's hard telling where things are going to go, but I look forward to it. I mean, there's a lot of opportunities out there to learn. Like he said, he's wanting to learn as much as he can. Robots are going to be a huge avenue, I think, here in the future. To learn the robotic side of stuff. So there's a lot of opportunities out there. Just you got to be willing to learn and work for it. So
yeah, I think it's exciting. How did you do mainly service or install when you were doing residential?
So I was probably like 95% service. I'd occasionally get called in to help with an install. I never really sat in on a full install. I'd go help with a furnace placement or a condenser placement or whatever. But oddly enough, I had to cut my teeth on my own install at my house a few weeks ago because my 21-year-old compressor shorted to ground, and so I had to ask my boss if I could have a day off work to install my own condenser and A-coil at my house. So that was a fun little project for me.
Yeah, that's going to happen to us soon here. Ours is 18 years old, Carrier, original condenser fan motor, original everything. I had a leak in a component in there I fixed while my wife was deployed. And she's like, well, we're going to have to replace this thing. I was like, yeah, well, I'll try to find us a good price. She's like, no, you're going to replace it. I'm like, I've never installed a residential AC unit. She's like, you'll figure it out. I'm like, all right, I'll figure it out.
I replaced it about 5 years ago, but it was an insurance job. My basement flooded, so I had to have someone else do it, luckily, or I would have been figuring it out myself. So what's been some of the biggest hurdles is changing over from a residential guy to residential HVAC to the commercial food service world? Anything particular stick out in your mind, or?
You kind of just mentioned it, but I used to have every single part I could ever want on my truck in residential. I had, I have a whole drawer of capacitors, contactors, single pole, two pole. I carried a universal blower motor at all times. I carried 2 or 3 other size motors at all times. I mean, I rarely had. Did we lose Jason?
He'll be back.
I rarely had cases where I would have to like go to a supply house or order a part and come back and reschedule, or because you're staring down a customer who you can see beads of sweat rolling down their face, and they're frustrated, and you're their only hope, and so you got to get it fixed and get it fixed ASAP. So that's a different kind of, maybe a little bit of a positive adjustment too. The urgency is still urgent, but it's people's health, or if they have like respiratory problems, they're not really at risk. In the kitchen equipment, they can either use a different cooler, or use a walk-in, for product that they need to keep cold, or use another fryer. A lot of cases like that where they have some backup options.
Yeah, it's a carrying enough parts to do everything we do it's impossible. I mean, I always make a joke that we could drive a semi and I'd still have to order parts. I mean, we do pretty good about assigning guys to certain product lines, but still, it's some days it just doesn't happen. I mean, I always double check, see if I got parts at the shop, or if there's a guy close that has the parts, and if not, I got to order it. And if it's a critical piece of equipment, I always make sure I give the customer the option. Hey, next day air, we can try to get them back tomorrow, or however we can do it. And then, we do a lot of warranty work, and most manufacturers now, they don't want their equipment down because it makes them look bad. So they're approving next day air on just about everything, especially under warranty.
Even over the weekends?
I've had a lot of manufacturers, they'll do Saturday delivery.
Oh, wow.
So it gets shipped to the customer site Saturday morning, and then they call in the overtime line, and the overtime line calls us, and, we sit out whoever's on call, or, if it's something that only I work on or someone else, dedicated person works on, a lot of times I'll tell the on-call guy, hey, if this call comes in, be expecting it, and call me, and I'll come take care of it. But it's kind of weird how it works. I mean, I can't ever predict it.
It's also another adjustment too, is like, these customers, a lot of times, I'm not gonna say every time, but you have your mom and pop stops who might control all their budgeting, and sometimes they dip into their own pocket to do repairs on their building or restaurant or whatever. But most of the time, I mean, they're it's either like in their capital expenditure money or in their budget, like from their franchisor or something. The money's not really coming from their pocket. So they're like, as far as price goes, they might be a little bit more lenient as far as like what it takes to get it done. Whereas a homeowner, that's pretty much their priorities. Like, who's going to give me the best price, cheapest price? So they might call a couple service companies to get different opinions and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, I've done a little bit of second opinion work, not a whole lot. I did one for a school system. We ended up getting that school system because I went back and, they had some guys come in doing some work that really wasn't trained in what we did. They did, they did refrigeration, but they didn't do cooking. They were more of just a mechanical contractor. And they do some cooking stuff when they kept telling the customer wrong. And eventually I went in there and I got it all fixed and doing great. And, I ended up winning that account. But yeah, it's there's not a whole lot of second guessing. Generally in the commercial world, kitchen world, they get a company they trust and they deal with, and it's just pretty much them unless some major stuff happens. I'm sure that's how you guys work as well, isn't it, Jason?
Correct. Yeah, you got to set yourself apart with your customer service. I mean, no one's gonna fix an oven or a fryer any different than anyone else. I mean, everybody has a level of experience that you just gain through time. So we got our new guys that are in 7 months. We got our 10, 20, 30, even 40-year techs, and every company has them. But it's really your customer service and communication and your relationship with your customers that'll win you some leniency when the stuff hits the fan. But, too many mistakes and they might want to date someone else, and see if it's greener on the other side. And sometimes they'll come back and sometimes they're not. It's your opportunity to keep, and it's also yours to lose.
Yeah, Jake hasn't worked with me a whole lot. I have to have him work with me some, and on some interaction with the customers. Some of the guys he's worked with don't have the best bedside manners, if you know what I mean.
Bedside manner. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, some people can use a little bit of lessons in communication and tact.
So. A smile and a conversation can change any situation, man. And some people do it. It's amazing. It's amazing the guys are just grumpy. I pick on Greg because he's old and he looks like Grumpy Cat, but It just goes in there, and I mean, he can fix anything, but he just can't communicate well with the customer. And it shows. Unfortunately, it reflects negatively on him, but it's not really. He's not really a negative person, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's something that you just, in residential at least, you just cannot afford to be a bad communicator or like bad attitude. Like the customer picks up on that like lickety split, and you've already lost their trust right when you walk through the door. So if you don't have a smile and know how to ask these customers about their grandkids, baseball games or their latest surgeries they're having on their knees, or you're giving business away to the competition, really. So that's like I feel like that's a good advantage I bring to this industry too. Is like I feel like I have pretty good soft skills, communication skills. So anytime I like to explain repair or what's going on with the equipment, I take my time to do that with the customer or the manager.
That's great.
I really like Jason's outlook on it, man. I thought I always had a pretty good outlook as far as talking to customers, but Jason takes it to the next level. And if you talk to Jason about how he deals with customers and interactions, he really takes pride in it, and it really shows. So I look up to Jason for that aspect. And like I said, I always thought I did a good job, but Jason kills it.
Oh, thank you.
So what? Let me ask you, Jason. What are some some kind of quick tips? Like what's your usual go-to? How do you communicate?
Yeah. So my big thing with all my techs is it's introducing yourself. Just hey, I'm here with General Parts. My name is Jason. I'm here to work on this piece of equipment. Can I get your name? Is there anything you need me to know about that piece of equipment? Hey, if there's anything else while I'm here, there's probably not an additional trip charge with you guys if you're already on the property. I can save you some money, and just let them know you care about their stuff, and then when you get back to see them, call them by name, write their name down. I put their names in the notes. I have all my guys, hey, in your notes, I always want to see upon arrival who you spoke to. That ensures that you're practicing good customer service, you're communicating with the customer, and you're going to address them by their name. So the next time you go back, you can look in your history. If you're a good tech, you look through your history and whatnot, and you see that person again. Hey, Sally, Billy, Bob, whatever, how you doing? Good to see you again. And then, the first trip, second trip, wherever you want to go about it, ask them, what they recommend there, because they're working in that job for whatever reason. They're there, I'm hoping because they like it, because I worked in restaurants and I loved it. If it wasn't for the last recession and however God planned this all, I would have probably still been there. But people make the most of the situation they're in. So they're there for a reason. They're most likely enjoying it, or they're trying to do the best they can. So ask them some things like, hey, what's your favorite dish here? What's a good night to come in here and whatnot. And, one, you're showing them that they're human, because when they see you and the first thing they see, and this is from my experience is working in hospitality, they see money going, so you're just someone who costs them money. And until you make them human and you communicate with them, now it's just like, okay, they see me, they're not looking, because there's a perception when I worked in hospitality that a lot of the guys came in who didn't speak to me were a little snobby and they thought they were better than me. And you know what? That's a narrative that my own mind made up, but that's what people do. They have to discern the situation they're in when they're interacting with other people. You do that all day. Call it being prejudice, discernment, whatever. You have to size people up and figure out what the heck they want from you. So until you create, a connection with them, all you are is somebody who's costing them a lot of money, so get to know them, ask them some stuff. And then the next time you come back in, say, maybe try that dish. And, when you get a chance, take it to go, come back and say, hey, I tried that recommended dish that you recommended. It was great. Like you said, it's real easy to, just like if you went to a bar and you made friends, you just shoot the shit with someone. That's what you do. That's all you're doing. Just treat them like humans, and they're going to remember you, and then you become a preferred technician and whatnot.
Yeah, there's no better feeling than when a customer calls in with a piece of equipment's down, and then, they ask for you, and dispatch tells them, hey, it's going to be 3 or 4 days, next week, and they're like, I'll wait. Just to make sure you I'm just going to send Jason out. Make sure you send Jake out. You want that relationship. That affects that looks. The perception of that relationship is going to go a long way with your employer, with that customer, and everything. So you build those relationships and you just nurture them. I mean, there's so many these schools, places I've been in where I know these people. I've seen them outside of work. I've been in I went to a hardware store and I ran into a customer of ours, and he came up to me and started talking to me. Where do you know him from? And I'm like, oh, he runs this kitchen at this hospital. Or, I'll see someone, like, I'm trying to figure out. My wife's like, you know her? And I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to figure it out. Give me a few minutes and I'll figure it out. Eventually it clicks, oh, I know her. She's a manager of this restaurant somewhere. And it's just, and if I remember who it is in time, I'll talk to him. Hey, how's something going? It's just, my mind's a crazy place, but I'll figure it out eventually.
You know her?
Yes, and then I explained it to her that she's pretty understanding. At first, she wasn't very understanding. Then she's got to realize that I deal with thousands of people a month. So
yeah,
I'll never forget. It was like maybe my first, I don't know, a few weeks on the job, and I was with Pat, and maybe I don't know if I was with Corbin or someone else on our team. We were taking out those coolers in the basement of a Butler. And that Chad, who is part of on the management team, like I remember him just like coming up and talking to Pat like he was like Pat was his best friend. And I just remember walking away thinking to myself, like, man, like this industry isn't just like turning wrenches. Like you can develop real relationships and and real friends. And it's kind of funny, like fast forward like several months later, I'm in my personal vehicle driving down the highway down the road here, and I have the windows down. It's nice weather, and I hear the loudest motorcycle I've ever heard in my life, and it's like a few lanes over to my right, and I'm like, man, who is this butthole? Like this thinks he's like tough stuff, and I look over and I see it's Chad. It's Chad and his like little curly mullet locks, and he's just like flying down the road.
Yeah, he seen me at NRA show. I was in line getting my badge, and someone's screaming my name, and I walk outside and I'm getting a text message, and it's Chad. He's, hey, I just seen you. So I waited for him to come out, and I talked to him. I walked down the NRA show for about 20 minutes, and it was pretty cool. But yeah, those relationships go a long way, man. Like, and I didn't really know him. I only done some work for him like one time, whereas as the last university he was at, DePaul. I went in there and they had a cooler. It was just about the end of its warranty and had a lot of issues, some coil degradation, some other stuff. And I fought for him and made it right because they kept trying to deny stuff. I'm like, no, you can't do that. You can't do this. And eventually they made it right. They honored the warranty. I got it all fixed and above and beyond. And then he got transferred over to Butler, and he wasn't happy with the service he was getting there. And he requested general parts, and he requested me. I walk in there. I'm like, oh, hey, you're here. He's like, yeah. He's like, you're here because of you and me. He's like, so let's make this work. And ever since then, it's just been a pretty good relationship. I always enjoy going to Butler. You never know what you're going to run into there. There's a lot of equipment, a lot of different stuff. Crawling around in attics full of asbestos, all kinds of stuff.
Well, hey, Pat, to your point, what you just said about that manager going to a different business and then bringing you guys on, that's the power of the relationship. And if you live in a small enough town, I'm not sure what town you live in, but I mean, these are the same people that might go to your church. Mm-hmm. Your kids might be in the same, little league, and your daughters will be cheerleading. You guys go to the same theaters, and it's like you want to treat people like you're going to see them again. Mm-hmm. We go out, and my daughters are just like, geez, Daddy, you know everybody. People are saying hi to you, like you look some sort of celebrity. I'm like, I help people. I try to be that lunchtime hero and come in clutch. But people really do remember how you service them. How you treated them, how you made them feel. So that's powerful. You never want to cross anyone or make them feel any kind of way, because that's how the universe works, man. They're gonna go somewhere else. Everybody's on a ladder trying to grow and stuff like that. So are they. And that might take them away from where they are currently in that journey. And they're gonna want people who they trust to back them up. They're only gonna go with who they know. So that's where you got brought over to that other university or whatnot. So I love that. I love that happens, because that just speaks to relationships.
Yep. I mean, it's a huge part of it. So, and I think Jake does a pretty good job. I haven't done a whole lot with him, one on one, and I'd like to here in the future. It's been hit or miss a few times, just because of location. So he's been kind of kept with one of the guys that does some more refrigeration than me. But I'll get some chance to work with him and see how he interacts. I try to push that to everybody, and it's so weird. I pick on my son because he's my son and he's one of our trainees, but like I told stories about him being this outgoing and crazy kid his entire life, and he comes to work here and he's scared to come up in the office up front. He won't come up there and talk to nobody. He hangs out in the back. I'm like, man, you gotta talk to people. That's our job, dude. He's just like, he's just shy. And I'm like, I don't know that side of him because it's never been the side I've seen of him. It's just crazy. So I've told stories to our customers that, I regular customers I've dealt with for years. And then we go in there and then we're working and I'm like, oh, yes, my son. And I'm like, that's your son? I thought you said he did this. I'm like, apparently he's going to make a liar of me today. So, but yeah, being comfortable with people is a huge part of our job. So what do you like about this industry so far? Anything in particular you like working on, you don't want to work on?
I feel like I'm pretty comfortable with like most refrigeration stuff. I feel like General Parts does a lot of business with combi ovens.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like naturally it's like on one hand it's like I'm comfortable with them, but on the other hand I don't know how they work yet. So between refrigeration and then like running combi oven calls, like I don't get a lot of other like hit or miss fryers, hit or miss convection ovens, hit or miss. I don't think I've worked on an open range to this day, but a lot of toasters and stuff like that. So I think right now like I really enjoy doing the refrigeration side, but also like I love learning about the combi because I feel like it's pretty complicated and I like to challenge myself and learn more about that. So.
You haven't seen nothing on the refrigeration side yet. You've done a lot of stuff with Jim, so you've done a lot of the smaller stuff. Wait till you get some crazy, some bigger walk-ins, some all digitally controlled stuff, some electronic TXVs and stuff like that. It's a whole nother world.
Yeah, I mean, I'm Kelly, our dispatcher. I remember when I first started, I kind of sat with her for a couple of days, just kind of cut my teeth on how they do dispatching, how they schedule calls and stuff like that. And I remember her saying like, right now we only have 2 refrigeration techs, and between Pat and Jim, and Pat has a lot of other responsibilities and installs and stuff like that. So they're kind of like bottlenecked a little bit of refrigeration. So I'm like, man, let's get this going. Like I want to learn. I want to get in there and put my gauges in and see what's going on. And but yeah, I'm excited to do some like more walk-ins and more freezers and stuff like that. So
yeah, I miss doing walk-ins. I miss doing refrigeration because right now, like you said, I'm kind of just like stuck on installs. And there's this huge Outback rollout with this Unox stuff, and I'm kind of getting into this kind of stuff. I'm like, hey, I want to do some more refrigeration stuff. I'm getting kind of bored over here, guys. So.
Is that nationwide, that rollout?
Yeah, so Outback's redoing their main cook line nationwide. So they're actually putting in 3 Taylor grills. So
I heard about that.
Putting in a gas 3-head. They're putting in their new 3-head electric and the 2-head electric where the bottom buttons go up to. So they're putting in 3 Taylors. They're putting in an Unox, and then they're changing some of the other stuff around. So they're doing our area right now. I did 2 last week. I did 3 this week. We get 2 weeks off. I do 3 more. It's pretty crazy.
I didn't know Taylor spread out like that. It's a lot of service.
Yeah, well, since they got bought up by Middleby Corp, it's gonna be crazy.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because I'm Taylor certified.
Yeah.
So I work on the grills and stuff, or I was, but I was wondering, now that you mentioned that, that was recent news.
Yeah, so they're actually
good for them.
They're actually starting to service some Middleby stuff, and so that's going to affect probably a lot of people because we've always done the Pitco's and some of that stuff that was under that Middleby umbrella, and So we'll see. But I was talking to the guys, and they don't want to work on the fryers. They don't want to do this, but they're kind of getting forced into that world just because that's who they are now. They're owned by them, so they're going to leverage their own service companies for service. Leverage General Parts or Caspers or whatever. I don't think they're totally going to do away with us, but I think they're going to try to leverage that side of it more.
I remember it's been a minute, but me and Greg ran into an issue where we went to a Pitco fryer issue at Burger King, and I think the manager was like a little hesitant to explain exactly what the history of was on the unit, but like we got to talking to her more, and like I think eventually kind of like slipped out, like, oh yeah, Taylor's been out here looking at it, but they basically couldn't figure it out, so that's why we're here to look at it. So
I love that when they try to keep that information.
you talk enough and it'll slip. It'll slip. It happened all the time with me in residential. In fact, sometimes people would like mistake you for like a different company. Like I remember one time I was doing just a PM on someone's furnace, and they were like, "Yeah, ever since we started using, gave the company name." I'm like, "Okay, yeah, that's not my company." So, but yeah, it's just stuff like that. Like people, it's kind of funny, but at the end of the day, you're there to do the work. So
yeah,
it's an opportunity.
So what I like to do is like the manager will hide stuff, but like you wait till the manager walks away and you find out who's working back in that area, and you befriend those people and you talk to them, and they will tell you all the information the manager won't tell you. Like, a lot of times like, oh, the manager's like, oh no, there's no water been thrown on this grill, and then like the manager leaves and you start talking to someone else, like, no, the night crew just throws water everywhere and they throw water on. That's why it's doing it. Yeah. I'm like, you can't always trust the manager. You go to the manager and ask for information, but you still want to ask the guys actually back there in the trenches doing the work, because they're really what happened.
Yeah, I always talk to the operator of the equipment, because they're the ones the most inconvenienced by the equipment being down. And if anybody knows how that piece of equipment runs and the sequence of operations on the operations side, it would be the person inconvenienced, and that's the operator. They are more than helpful, willing to help you, to let you understand, okay, this is what I do, and this is where it stops working when I do this. And it's like, bingo, that. But yeah, they're the first ones to say, oh yeah, look in the closet, there's a pressure washer, which I hate finding inside of restaurants. And I always find a little Ryobi electric pressure washer, and then they wonder why their condensers, that are their low boys and whatnot, are all shot and full of water, and they take it to their grills. I found blenders and dishwashers, just all kinds of craziness. But trust the operator.
So LED Handyman asked a question. He wants to know what certification do you have for restaurant training? There's not really a certification. I mean, it's just on the job pretty much is how we roll. I mean, I think there is some programs out there, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I can answer that. Aside from factory training, like going to Taylor for 2 weeks, AVO training, Garland, I got a level 2. I haven't gotten a 3 or anything like that. I'm sure you have. I know you got everything, Pat. But everything for the most part is, other than Cefesa certifications, which I don't have any. I took the classes for the water, the steam, the electric and gas. But only other certifications I have are what I've taken in my facility maintenance college and in my HVAC college. But everything else in the field, you just want to apply the principles that you learn, and that's about it. In the EPA license, I think I've got about as much as on average that any kitchen equipment or building maintenance guy has. I don't have like a NATE certification, or I'm not a master Cefesa certified technician or anything. No. Good question.
So Jake just took that electric, gas, steam, and water class. Him, Corbin, and then another guy from Indy. All three of them went down a couple weeks ago, or probably about a month ago now, and they took that class, and
I liked it.
6 days and a lot of hands-on. It was a little bigger class than normal, so they had 3 instructors there, so they broke up into 2 groups, and they brought in a couple guys to teach. John Swin and Paul Perfutis taught, and I think Dan just kind of filled in with hands-on stuff. So it was cool. So Corbin had a lot of good things to say about it. And I think Jake said some good stuff about it too. I haven't talked to John about it, but I know Corbin was excited. He came back. He was ready to get to work. He was ready to tear stuff up on his own. So
Man, I think coming into the commercial side, I think that was my biggest desire coming out of residential because Jason, if you've done residential stuff, like the training really there's not a whole lot unless your company is like very proactive on sending you to like manufacturer classes like and their whatever they manufacture their equipment or most of it's just kind of like online stuff and it's just kind of out in the field like if you run into issues like call your manager. That's what I dealt with a lot there in residential. But like when we went to electric or the GSW class, I'm like, man, I was just eating it up because that's exactly what I've been wanting. And the guy teaching us has been doing this for 40 years, and there's another guy over him that's been doing it for like 50 years, and then not to mention all the guys around me who were either in my same like spot in their career, or maybe they have been doing refrigeration for 10 years and they haven't touched hot side stuff yet. So they're still cutting their teeth on stuff. So it's like kind of crazy, what all is out there and where people are at and kind of bouncing ideas off of them, talking to them, learning about their experiences kind of really helps you push you forward.
So I don't know how you do it. How's the training structure set up at Casper's? Is it you pretty much you get a mentor and you're with that mentor till you turn free, or do they kind of bounce around, or how do they do it there?
So for our university that we have a full test kitchen, but we have a couple RTUs, full size Lennox and York RTUs. We have them on casters. We roll them in and out of the warehouse, and we everything's hands on. We got some boards, some huge boards, some that we built ourselves, and some really expensive ones. They're about the cost of a car that are in their modules, so we can explain things. We have where a lot of our customers will bring when they purchase new equipment. Sometimes they'll want us to refurbish it, so they'll agree to let us have it for a few months, and the students will work on those. They'll calibrate them, clean them, understand the sequence of operations, and rebuild everything inside and diagnose them. So we do a lot of hands-on. We have it in. I don't have the syllabus in front of me, but we have like a where they do in semesters. So we'll take some students out of HVAC college and we'll put them through like 3 months, pay them like 18.50, $20 an hour, and they'll get their 40 hours every week, and they're training and they're getting paid, and and it's like 100 times more than what they would have gotten in HVAC school. Because from what I've heard, a lot of students these days, I went to HVAC school 9-10 years ago and facility school, and it was a lot of hands-on. Now it's hands-on and kids watching YouTube, which is very strange to me, is what I'm hearing. So we're all hands-on, and we got the Cefesa training books and for the classes and stuff like that. Chad's a Cefesa certified master tech. Samantha's the other instructor on she makes the curriculum, and it's very training intensive. And then for the technicians that are regular technicians, whether they're in the PM department, the beverage department, the install department, the service department, design or whatever, if they feel that they talk to their supervisor and say, I'm not feeling so great on this piece of equipment or this theory or this subject, they'll just call the training department, and then we'll just ask all the departments, how are you guys and your team feeling about this particular thing? Can we get 3, 4, 5 guys together and we'll make a class out of it? Like our test kitchen, I'm going to have everyone come in, I think, in 2 Fridays, because I'm on vacation as of tomorrow for about a week and a half. But when we come back, we're gonna clean all the flat tops, the fryers, all the hot side equipment, and I'm gonna take that opportunity to show them how to calibrate all that stuff, for hot side PMs, and stuff like that. So we're training is super important. We do not care about spending extra for investing in trading, because it's a few bad incidents, and then it's a customer leaving, it's millions of dollars potentially, and that's a big hit. So we got to make sure everybody's on point and whatnot. So that's how we are with training for the most part. When it comes to mentorship, once you're in a department, your supervisor, your lead technician, those are your mentors. but we make sure everybody's, got those basics down and whatnot, and they're comfortable with the equipment.
Yeah, we're changing a lot on the training side. There's a lot of stuff coming out that I can't really talk about what we're going to do, but you're a big in one area. Like your location, your guys are big there. You know what I mean? But we're spread out all across the country, so it makes it really hard for us to do things like that. We're a relatively small branch in general parts, and then there's humongous branches other places. And we're all across the country. We're not down in Florida or down south. I mean, we're in Texas, but we're not in California. But we're spread out pretty good. So we're working doing some training facilities in a university style thing. It's going to be so many weeks and that kind of stuff. So we're working on stuff. It's just going to take a little while to come around. But the biggest issue, it seems like, is get these managers to understand that you need to send these guys to training. You're going to lose the money up front on training, but the money you're going to lose in the long run, if the guy is not trained and doesn't properly know how to work on something, is going to be far surpass the money you're going to learn and send them to training. They just see that initial hit to the budget, but they don't see the hit you're going to take if you lose your top tier customer, if you lose a big warranty customer because the guys aren't trained. They don't see that side of it until it happens. So getting them to understand is the hard part. That's kind of going.
That's very pricey, man. I mean, it could take one guy. Some customers, for some customers, who they're working with is a lack of options, and for some people, the devil is better. They feel is better than the devil they don't know. So they'll continue to deal with the same BS, and they're they probably got a good sales account manager that keeps touching base with them and walking them back. But it could be that one guy that just is just pushes it over, and they're just like, forget it, I'm just going with someone else. And and that has a lot to do with training. So, and that's why we even train on soft skills, because it's like just training on technical stuff, which you're gonna get that knowledge in, and it's super important. But I mean, you could lose accounts from someone's attitude, or someone's lack of communication. So our training is pretty comprehensive. It's from technical to soft skills to emotional intelligence, just all that stuff.
Yeah, I think we need to institute some soft skill stuff. I'm going to try to push that. I mean, I'm not perfect. I'll lose my temper from time to time. It happens. I'm not proud of it. I try to keep it from happening if it happens. I make sure, if I do get upset or something, that no one sees me. But, we've got guys that will just lose their crap right in front of a customer and not even think twice about it. I'm like, you can't do that. I'm like, it's amazing. They don't realize that how they carry themselves as a perception on general parts, how your guys carry themselves as a perception on Caspers, and one guy can ruin a relationship. It's amazing.
Yeah. Got to remember that namesake on the side of the building, man. That's a representation. Nobody's walking in anywhere without your company's name on your, at that time, you are the company. You're all they know. Because if you're an asshole, the company's an asshole. If you're a sweetheart, the company's a sweetheart. It's all on you. So some people, people go through stuff, I mean, relationship issues, children, spousal issues, and it's hard, when you go through a rough night or whatever you're going through, and trying to separate that. And I think when, like, I don't give people a real hard time when they have to call out, they're asking for PTO. I'm like, just give us some good, talk to me. I'm very understanding. I mean, if it's not a habit and you got something going on, I'd rather you deal with, your kid, your wife, your husband, whatever, than to come into work and be absolutely miserable, not paying attention, potentially risking your safety, hurting yourself, or damaging a piece of equipment or someone else. People really, and that falls under emotional intelligence. You never know what people are going through, and some people, they just need some space, but so it's a fine line.
So combis, I worked with Jim and Greg. So Greg does some combis, Jim really doesn't do any. So you mainly worked on some rationales then, probably, Jake?
Yeah, I've installed a few rationales with Greg, and I've done some service on some combo therms, and maybe a couple of Alomas, and then maybe even some. I've done a couple of Unox installs with you, I think. So.
Yeah. There's a wide variety out there. I know we got some training we're trying to get lined up for you and Corbin and John. So Try to get some combo with them right now. It's the hard one to get. I'm sick of being the only guy that goes to this particular grocery store chain. I'm just kind of over it. Corbin kind of got fed to it today. I had a conference call with some senior management for our parent company, and I had to bail. I was like, "Hey, this part goes in here. There's an arrow that says up. Make sure you screw it all the way in. That arrow's sticking up, and I'll be back." And he had to lay on the floor in the van talking on the phone for a while. But yeah, we gotta get some guys trained up in the different combis. It's that's gonna free me up to do some other things. I keep telling them, I was like, man, there's gonna be a day where I'm not gonna be able to be in the field every single day, guys. You know, there's some stuff in the works, and you guys are gonna be, you know, a little hurting if I'm not here. So we gotta get guys trained up.
Looking forward to getting those announcements, man. What you're doing?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to when they tell me.
So these things coming up and these announcements and these things coming up are things that are through your company, not stuff you're working on in your own.
There's some stuff I'm working on my own, and then there's some stuff that our parent company, because we're owned by PTA.
Yeah.
So the service side of Parstown is called Unlimited Service Group. So we're part of the Unlimited Service Group, and that just encompasses all the service companies they own. So there's two really entities, all under PTH, but you have Parstown, which is the parts side of it, and then you have the Unlimited Service Group, which the service companies are. So they're just working on some stuff. Some I do know about, some I don't. And like I'm doing some stuff on my own too, trying to figure out some things. So it's cool. Just trying to find my little nut in the world, you know. I'm just a little squirrel trying to find a nut, but my nut always changes. I'm always trying to go somewhere else. You know, I get confused. I'm more like the dog chasing a squirrel. So
nothing wrong with that, man. While you still got your marbles, brother.
Yeah.
While you still have that drive and that curiosity and that ambition, you just gotta use it or lose it, right?
Yeah, use it or lose it. So I think we got some good guys coming in between, you know, Jake and Corbin. You know, we got some potential there, and just to keep them interested. It's right now is we're just trying to find the time to give them time to learn. Like I said, we come from the mindset of 20 years ago where it's so much easier than it is now, and you know, I'm guilty of expecting. You know, I'm guilty. Greg's guilty of thinking, oh, these guys should be further along than where they are at now, and it's not going to be the case with what the stuff we're working on now. It's nowhere near going to be the case. This chat is nuts right now, man. I don't know if you guys been following this. But
I checked in. I saw Reliable in there. They're hijacked and talking about Crocs.
Oh, dude, it's I'm about to get a moderator because it's getting a little crazy.
Are you sure we're not on Twitch or is it YouTube?
It's YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn. I haven't seen anybody from LinkedIn checking in. It's mostly everybody's on YouTube tonight, and they're just all over the place. So, well, I won't keep you guys much longer. I appreciate you guys coming on. I look forward to working with Jake in the future. I want to see Jake grow. He's got some potential. He wants to learn, so that's always a good thing. So we'll check back in with Jake in a couple months and have him come back on once he's out doing some more things on his own. He's been doing little calls here and there on his own. Did some stuff today for me at Part Hanger. Just got to remember you check all the orifices, not one, buddy.
Yeah.
So I learned on that one too because I didn't check them on Saturday, so don't feel bad. So everybody, make sure you follow Jason on social media. I won't give Jake's out because he's kind of a private guy. So make sure you're following Jason on all social media because he puts out great content. He's always promoting proper techniques, proper safety, and doing all the great things. So make sure you follow him. So have a good night, everybody.
Thanks, Pat. Appreciate it.
Yep. If you guys would, please consider subscribing, rating, and reviewing the podcast. It really helps us grow and helps us know which direction to move in. Also, if you have any suggestions for guests, please email me at commercialkitchenchronicles@gmail.com. Or if you want to be a guest, email me. Love to have you guys on. Thanks a lot. See you next week.